Respect for elders and their wisdom is a time-honored tradition in many Eastern societies. But today, in one of Asia's wealthiest cities, more and more senior citizens are struggling to survive. I'm Steve Chow. On this episode of 101 East, we travel to Hong Kong to investigate why so many of its elderly are being left behind.
Hong Kong likes to see itself as the New York of the East. This dynamic metropolis of 7 million people never sleeps. Neither do the many elderly who work all hours of the day to keep this city ticking. But they're the face of a growing problem in Hong Kong. A third of elders here live in poverty. One of them is this 66-year-old grandmother.
啲紙皮冇得執啊，有時啊搶㗎，你霸住嚟執㗎。
Paw or grandma, is among the thousands of rubbish collectors working on Hong Kong streets.
So that's all good to sell?
Most people retire at her age, but she can't slow down.
唔夠生活就咁日執夜執㗎嘛，有啲唔恨得半夜就出嚟執啊，咁所以冇得執乜滯，有時有啲鋪頭撞到個開貨咁有得掉出嚟咪有得執咯先。
So, do you want me to give you a
唔
hand?
使
You're not
啊，
pushing-
我自己來啊，我自己就得啊，
Okay then, alright, I won't. Are you sure?
係啊，我自己做得啊。
Okay, alright.
From back alleys to the business districts, no one takes a second glance at these elderly workers. They avoid strangers and fear talking about their lives will bring shame to their families.
嗱，嗰啲又執紙皮，嗰啲有得執啊，周圍冇執啊姐啊。
It's hard to enter their world or even keep up with these old timers.
Looks like there's some cardboard
唔
over
買
there.
啦，嗰度係收嘅。
Let's go over.
唔買啦，咁邊度行啊姐？
Oh yeah, there's some cardboard. Let me give you a hand.
周個可能嚇。
So how do you do this? Do you tie it down or?
謝你啊！
Finding rubbish isn't easy. You need to be fast and have real street smarts.
有時3天，有時4天。
Sometimes it takes 4 days to fill up the cart.
有啲
I'm lucky when kind people put it on my trolley or call me on my phone to collect it.
仲要呃秤咯。
We're paid 5 cents per kilogram, but they often cheat us on weight, and they pay us less if it's
有時又
tattered.
計少錢俾咁啊。
Well, Auntie, let's go see if we can find some more cardboard, eh?
Competition is fierce here. Paw lives in Hong Kong's poorest neighbourhood.
我哋深水埗咧，多數都係嗰啲低收入者，同埋嗰啲新來港嘅人，即係冇乜積蓄咯。
Life in this neighbourhood revolves around an old gritty street market. Here the elderly hawk trinkets or donated goods. Others survive by scavenging in bins.
This is a really common sight around the poor neighbourhoods of Hong Kong, and it's really disheartening to watch. It makes you think, where's the government and where are their families?
Luckily, there are others who'll step up to help. This popular restaurant in Sham Shui Po serves up cheap traditional fare to loyal clientele. The owner, Chan Ming, subsidises meals to help poor seniors eke out their meagre welfare payments. Those over 70 rely on $150 a month to survive. The payment dismissively nicknamed fruit money.
Government welfare is barely enough, and it's really hard to obtain benefits if the elder has children. The son has to sign a paper saying that they don't have the means to look after the parents. Too many families feel shame in doing that.
And it's not just the families. Chan explains many elderly are just too proud to seek help.
Some don't take the welfare because it's shameful in Chinese society to tell someone you are on welfare. They're so stubborn.
That's where Chan and his band of 200 volunteers come in. Once a week, they pack up meals from his restaurant and deliver them to even more poor, hungry residents.
The government, they don't know what's happening, but we do. They're not at the front line to see what's going on, to find out the needs of the poor. They don't get the real picture.
Family responsibility has traditionally been seen as a bedrock in Chinese society. But life for families is getting tough in this cutthroat city where the cost of living keeps rising.
I think there is still a lot of willingness in Hong Kong to look after parents, although the large family and the associated large family networks no longer stays.
Dr. Kim Mak is the chairman of the Hong Kong Society of the Aged.
A lot of families now only have one child. So one young person could face the dilemma of having to look after, two parents and then grandparents, and when he or she marries, even the other half of the family as well.
Far from being cared for by her children, tough economic times mean Paw Paw still supports her family. This is a very, very small place. How many people live here with you?
My 2 sons and my grandchild. Together with me, that's 4 people.
The monthly rent in her small subdivided flat is $540, but she only gets $300 in government welfare.
Many old folks face this money problem where welfare doesn't keep up with rising living costs. It's considered normal. I tried to apply for a higher level of welfare, but I can't access it.
So for now, she faces 5 a.m. starts to collect rubbish. It's a tough job made worse because she injured her back while working as a government street sweeper. Paw Paw was unable to get compensation and her savings have dwindled.
I paid into my retirement fund for a decade. The money seemed okay. But now, with rising expenses, I've spent all my retirement funds within a year of getting it.
All Hong Kong workers and their employers must contribute to a compulsory retirement fund so everyone has some money in their old age. But this system only began 16 years ago, and low-income workers like Paw Paw have saved little. Considering the average lifespan is 87 years here, it leaves many elderly in a very vulnerable position.
Hong Kong is one of the most expensive property markets in the world, and if you're old and poor, there's not a lot of options, even if you're still working.
Most of these elderly aren't homeless, but what passes for a dwelling here is quite startling. I'm meeting an elderly man who works as a lowly paid contract labourer and does what he can to survive. Lam Wai Ko lives in a small apartment that's been subdivided into even smaller rooms to cram more people in. He first shows me his friend's room. 10 people live here with Lam. Each have a tiny room like this one, and all share an equally tiny shower and kitchen.
用自己嘅時間去掌握。
We have to adjust each other's schedule because so many people are staying here. The space is too tight. We can't all cook together. I usually eat very late.
How do residents cope?
This is what I do. I'll exercise. You don't need a lot of space, so this is what I do.
I'm not sure I could ever get used to living in such cramped conditions, but Lam, it seems, is used to much worse.
This room is very small, but my space is even smaller. So please, come with me. Let me show you my room.
Let's have a look.
There's my door, up there. My space is up there. You come on up and see. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, like that, okay?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So this is where you live?
Yes, it's very tight up here. It can't really accommodate 2 people.
In Hong Kong, this space is crudely called a coffin home. A few minutes up in this attic makes me claustrophobic, but Lam has endured these conditions for a decade. With his son and wife, he moved here from China 10 years ago because they wanted a slice of Hong Kong's prosperity. But when the struggle got tough, Lam's wife left him, and now his son rarely visits.
When my son was 8, he told me this room has no TV, no radio. Back then it didn't even have a fan. He said it was like a prison cell. Even though he was so young, he knew what this place was. I felt really embarrassed. But although life inside here may not be easy, at least it's better than sleeping by the road.
Lam only has 3 days off work a month, so he says he doesn't need much space.
You just bear it. When you're on a low income, you have to choose between eating better meals or having a bigger space. I don't care about nice clothes. I just try to get 2 decent meals. I work for 13 hours a day, so all I need is a place to sleep.
Lam is frugal with food choices because his earnings are modest. But the 66-year-old says his body is struggling to keep up with his physical work, so he'll have to give up the job soon.
Are you worried about your future?
I am worried because my retirement fund is only $1,800. It's not a lot because my income is so low. I'll probably use it up within 2 years, and I'm not expecting to win the lottery. The wealthy can set aside savings, but I can't.
Hong Kong has saved over $400 billion in a sovereign wealth fund. This is the world's top finance hub, where the number of multi-millionaires keeps rising. So it's no wonder there are more Rolls-Royce per capita here than anywhere else in the world. Yet despite this pot of gold, Hong Kong has struggled to introduce a more generous pension scheme.
So why are so many elderly citizens left to struggle in poverty? Is it greed, a lack of money, or indifference?
I've talked to some of the very rich people in Hong Kong about this. I think they always believe that this group of old people They really deserve this kind of poverty because they have not prepared for their old age.
I'm meeting Nelson Chow Win Sun, who is a leading professor specialising in social welfare. Last year, Nelson was the chief architect behind a proposal to give every elderly resident a monthly pension of $380.
It's triple of what they are getting at the moment. I think they make a difference for this about 300,000 elderly people.
While the government would fund most of his plan, Nelson recommended citizens donate some of their retirement funds and businesses pay an additional 1% income tax. Do you think the government has enough money to provide this universal pension?
I'm sure our government is the richest government in the world. I think the government have the money for it. Whether we are prepared to pay for it is another thing, but I'm sure we have the money.
But Nelson's proposal was controversial. The city-state government quickly dismissed his recommendations, and he's now joined the ranks of the retired.
Basically, it's a question of ideology because they think the scheme is too socialist. And they argue that Hong Kong is a capitalist society, and they would think that the universal pension would turn Hong Kong into a welfare society.
Hong Kong's politicians can ignore such solutions, but poverty is not disappearing anytime soon. Dominic Lee is a newly elected young voice from a right-wing party that is against a universal pension.
I believe that Hong Kong is heading towards the direction of the welfare state. Resources should not be just a handout, should not be an entitlement. People have to be accountable for themselves, for their own family. And if we are having too large of a welfare, then that's not going to be healthy.
Educated in the US, Dominic is the son of entrepreneurs who built their family company here from scratch. He says Hong Kong's low taxation system attracts vital foreign investment and white-collar workers, and introducing more taxes for welfare schemes will drive big businesses away.
We're facing tremendous competition from other Asian countries like Shanghai, like Singapore, and we're losing out this battle in the past few years. And when corporations look at where they do their investment, taxation is a huge part.
Interestingly though, many of Dominic's constituents are elderly, and his office is very close to poor areas like Sham Shui Po.
What do you think when you see old ladies pushing carts of rubbish down the streets of Hong Kong?
On a personal level, I'm very, I sympathize with them a lot. I think the government needs to do things to help them. On the policy level, when we're making policies, we got to be careful that we don't let personal emotions get in the way of making good judgment, because resources that are used to help one person is resource that could be used to help other people.
But Hong Kong's future leaders are facing what's been dubbed the silver tsunami. The ageing population is living longer, but the workforce will start to shrink from next year. That means more families under pressure, more welfare required for old people, and more examples of elderly poverty on Hong Kong's streets.
If you think about it, very soon there will be one person about 65 in every 3 people. So if you expect a younger person to look after somebody about 60, 65, there are just not enough people to go around.
Dr. Mack says that Hong Kong is short of doctors and nursing homes for the elderly.
Because of the fast growth of elderly population, we find that we cannot build elderly homes fast enough. Every year we add a certain number of beds, but there are actually more people waiting than there are additional beds. So the waiting list is 3.5 years, and could be a bit longer for certain people with special needs.
The sad reality is that most elderly have to fend for themselves. For an 82-year-old, Mak Shui Gun is quite the athlete. She plays basketball some mornings to combat high blood pressure.
Oh, so why do you like basketball? Why not Tai Chi like the other ladies?
Because you don't have to learn how to play ball. Tai Chi you have to study, and I'm too old. I'm a bit dumb now to learn new things. For me, it's not playing ball, it's just exercise. It's not basketball.
Take it away.
Staying fit matters because she's the primary carer for her husband of 60 years.
My husband has so many illnesses, I can't name all of them. He's got a weak heart, he's got clogged arteries, he's incontinent, he's got uric acid. The doctor says he's just too old for operations, just leave it. We old people don't have any hope except for looking after ourselves. If I can't look after myself, then it's bye-bye.
The couple can't afford a care home or a nurse to help them in their apartment.
Some people die before they get a bed in a nursing home. Hiring someone is expensive too. And people need to visit you frequently in nursing homes, otherwise you just rot and die.
From their teens till their 70s, they worked hard their whole lives in the same factory. It's where they fell in love. They saved a little nest egg in that time, but being thrifty has meant they now don't qualify for welfare. Despite contributing to Hong Kong's success, they don't expect much.
We paid our taxes, we made our contribution. When we first arrived in Hong Kong, this place was just a mouldy little mountain. We have a relationship with our government like a mother and son. Mother is boss, and if the mother says don't walk, you just sit. The government's policy is like this. We can't really force them to change.
But there are many of their peers who think they can make a difference. They may be old, they may be poor, but they still have a voice. And with 1 million Hong Kong residents over 65, that voice is getting louder.
I think they would not take to the street, as far as I know. They would express their anger in a different way. I think there will be a swift of the support of the elderly, from those who support the government to those who are against the government. That is a political consequence. I think the government must take into consideration.
I have no idea what will happen to me in the future. All the elderly hope for is to get assistance from the government. We need them to help us. I'm hoping the government will look into taking care of the elderly. I want them to give us some hope for our future lives.
Today, for Lam Wai Ko, there's a glimmer of that hope. After years of living in a coffin home, he has finally been allocated a government flat. It's his birthday tomorrow, and it's an unexpected gift.
Is this the best birthday present you could have hoped for?
This is the happiest time since I moved to Hong Kong. I really wanted a government flat. Now I have room, I can buy bigger things like a washing machine. And when my son comes to visit, it will look like home. I'm grateful to the government, but I hope they'll speed up the process for other elderly so they can enjoy their twilight years.
For now, Lam sees new possibilities, but 500,000 other elders continue their struggle on the streets of Hong Kong. Here, in one of the world's richest cities, life is far from perfect for those aged and abandoned.